When we told our 5 children that we were going to adopt another baby, our 2 oldest girls gasped and started squeal begging us to make it happen, as if we didn't really mean it when we told them in the first place. Our youngest daughter asked for details. When would we get the baby? Where would the baby come from? Would it be a boy or a girl? Our older son didn't have much of a response. He must not have been paying attention. In fact, when we made the announcement to our neighbors later, he yelled happily, "Wait, you didn't tell me this!" But our younger son's reaction was the most poignant. 5 years prior, we had brought him home from South Korea, where he had spent his first 21 months with kind, loving foster parents. Our family had matched with him when he was only 9 months old, but because of delays in the mechanics of adoption, we had to wait a full, agonizing year to actually meet him. Old enough to have formed vital bonds with family, foster, biological, or adoptive, but too young to understand the complicated process of adoption. He was at probably the most difficult age to make such a devastating transition. From his perspective, he was torn from his mommy and daddy, his secure home, and everything he knew. And we, despite our desperate longings to love and care for him, were the catalysts for that trauma. The transition was a difficult one, and its effects were long-lasting. I felt a need to protect him against any perceived bias from my other children on a daily basis, and to prove to him that I loved him. From the day we met, he held me at a distance, regarding me almost suspiciously. Our relationship was strained, and it wrecked me. I hoped and prayed that with time, he would grow to understand more and things would improve. But life was often a quiet battle between us. On this day, however, things changed. After we had told the kids, I climbed up into the attic to retrieve the blue nylon tote bag that our adoption agency had provided on the day we met Hudson. They had placed his important documents and a few personal items from his foster family inside. Once we returned home, I had added the outfit he wore when we met him, his bottle, maps of Seoul, and all of our souvenirs from the trip, and then zipped it closed and put it away. It was fun to pull everything out as a family, remembering and talking about each item. Then, reminded of the memories I had recorded on the iPad, I searched through my old computer files until I found the travel journal, the one I had written in obsessively, more for my own sanity and distraction than for sentimental reasons. I honestly hadn't read it since we had come home. Shortly after we returned, I had created a hardbound memory book about the adoption with photos and text that Hudson memorized. But the travel journal was a perspective that he had never heard before. I took it to the living room and started reading it out loud to the kids. Several times I had to pause because the memories were overwhelming. When we came to the description of our first meeting, Hudson slipped quietly out of the room. A few minutes later, we heard him crying piteously in his bedroom. I went in and held him and cried with him. I asked if he could tell me what made him so sad, and he said he missed Korea and that it was a sad story. It was a sad story. I don't think he had ever thought about how sad it was for everyone involved. Hearing it read to him was painful, but healing. I comforted him the best I knew how, holding him and allowing him to grieve. I reminded him that we'd stopped reading at the sad part, but that the story had happy parts too. We talked about those happy parts, playing on a playground in Korea, eating at McDonald's on our first day together, flying home and being greeted by friends and family at the airport, the welcome party at Oma and Opa's house, and having a new brother and 3 sisters to play with. After a few minutes, he calmed down, the grief having been lanced like an abscess. Soon he was distracted by things in his room and the mood changed. I told him we didn't have to read anymore. We could do something else. But less than 20 minutes later, he came to me and asked me to read him the rest of the story.